from their encounters with races from other planets. The information is the activation. Let's awaken this world together. We are the forever students, and we will not be silent. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. Pretty wild. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Full Spectrum Universe. My name is Rob Yox. It's been a minute, but we are back. I am not going to say my usual lines of we are an embattled broadcast, but we are no longer behind enemy lines. We are still in the great state of New York, but we are waking up the world. Therefore, there are no battle lines drawn anymore. We have won this war. This is a spiritual war, which is still going on, and we're trying to basically bring everybody together so collateral damage is no longer an issue. One of the things we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be diving into Lyran history and how Lyran history is humanity's history and the correlation thereof. Also, while going into the Lyran history, we're going to be discussing exactly how that perceives impacts upon reality in the present. This is a deeper dive into some of the things that we talked about during Galactical Beginnings, like the Lyran Wars, the Great Galactical War. And this is probably going to be a two-parter, possibly three, because first we're going to go rephrasing and reframing the Lyran history. Then we're going to be talking about humanity's history, and then we're going to be talking about the intersectionality of both and what that truly means for every moment, every minute, every second moving forward. So also, we're going to be adding some segments to the show. First segment we're going to be adding is the very beginning of the show is going to be called My Opening Salvo, right? My opening statements for the show. They're going to be incorporating what the subject of the show matter is. It's going to be a little bit more of my thoughts on it, but also relative to what's going on in the world today. That is a little bit more of giving myself to the broadcast and kind of interweaving some of my personal thoughts as opposed to the research thoughts. And we're going to have a lot of fun doing that. So this is really, really an interesting topic. When I've been infatuated with this for a whole week, I'm telling you, but I had some pretty bad migraines over the last week. We know because of the solar action that's going on, the solar flares and whatnot, our code or our DNA or our Christos blueprint is being changed. And what I mean by being changed is it's setting us back to the 0 point, default settings, factory resets, right? So a lot of that time is spent me, trying to take Advils or Tylenols and really trying to hunker down and barrel through these headaches. That is partially what caused my absence over the last week. Hopefully, we're going to get an uptick in the episodes from this point forward. Also, there was a lot of research that I was putting forward and trying to corroborate them into pieces and points and really putting together this class or this course that I said I was going to be putting out. It was supposed to be in the end of January, but we're going to be moving that to the mid-February region only because there is so much information to go over. I want to make sure that we do it absolute justice while doing it. I don't want to breeze through any of the topics. I want to go deep with charts, PDFs. We're going to really be going in. It's going to be an energetics workshop. Energetics is where it's at, talking about fields, grids, you, and how you incorporate and interact with that sound frequency. All different types of energetics we're going to be talking about and how they impact your physical and your consciousness and the alignment thereof. So, with that being said, I hope everybody's ready to dive in because we are about to dive in. I'm telling you. So before we actually start, let me bring it back to me real quick. Please, please, please share this information out. This is an unveiling of truths that not many people are privy to because they just don't have outlets to do so, right? And I hate taking medications for headaches and things like that. I tried to use a lot of different healing, and for some reason, it was just so bad, right? It was so bad, the headaches, they were just tremendous. It was it was over my eye here. It was also in the center of my head, and it was not just sinuses and that pressure. It was something that I just could not get rid of, and it was ringing my bell. I could barely think straight, barely talk throughout that whole time. So my wife is a saint for putting up with me because I'm sure I had a bit of an attitude for that. But it was really, really wild. I usually get a migraine or a headache now and again, but for days on end, it's never happened like that. So it was pretty, pretty catastrophic in my world. But please, again, share this information out. Also, when this information is done and we finish this evening, first off, we have Protocols of Saturn, Chapter 7 on Watchers Talk. Everybody should be going to Omar's channel, supporting him. The in depth research he does with the symbolism, and tonight's going to be about corporations. So we're going to see how the corporate establishment has, with the elites, impacted the satanic ritualization or initiations of current society, and it's really an in-depth dive. I've seen a couple slides of it. I'm not going to give it away, but it is absolutely diabolical and sinister. You need to be up to date on this information. Protocols of Saturn, that is at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you live outside that time zone, hopefully you can do the math. I'm not going to name everyone across the world, but so there's that. Second, I would ask that you please leave a comment underneath the streams when they finish, both mine and Watchers Talk. You have no idea what this does to beat the algorithmic bugs that we try and compete with every day to get this information that we're giving out so freely to everybody, to get out there to more people, to impact the world on a greater stage, right? This is what we're all intending to do. And by my canting or my count, I want to say that this is our inherent duty to pass, even if we don't fully believe in what the person is speaking. To It's our inherent duty to pass information along for other people to discern themselves, right? So we have to do that. Our job is to share these things out and give it to everybody else so we can wake the world up together. That is our ultimate goal. It is our duty, it is what we believe in. It is our edicts that we live by. That's spreading love. And we're going to spread love by doing that, right? Both for the creator themselves, but also for those of us that are on the awakened path, helping the ones that are just beginning to wake up or essentially not wake up, whatever their choice is. But we're doing our best to put it out there for everybody, right? So let's do this. Okay, Lyran history and how it intersects with humanity. Now, again, the beginning is my opening salvo, but this is pertaining to this information. It is absolutely inherent that we understand why this is what it is, right? So we've all been here before, right? Standing at a major precipice and a major evolutionary change where the same choices were presented to us, right? Either love or fear. Much of the current crisis and themes that we are facing are now steeped in our hidden galactical history. So we must ask ourselves, how do we actually choose a different future? How do we choose an ascending timeline that benefits all human beings? And if we can do our part to stay out of the fear and continually choose love and peace, we can create a link through time in which our present timeline can phase lock into the future timeline and the alignment of the Christos, or the realignment of Christos, where spiritual freedom and human freedom has already manifested. And as we restore this energetic balance to the planetary architecture and the energy grid networks to be governed by the universal laws, we establish the new laws to be made manifest through our physical bodies. All change begins within the self. As each of us holds value for all life, we are empowered to be a positive force of spiritual transcendence that restores the energetic balance, which increases our discernment in choosing to demonstrate life affirming actions for ourselves and, of course, humanity. So, what are we saying? What are we seeing out there? Humanity has met this precipice, in a timeline of personal choice, which pushes us even harder to look deep inside of ourselves for greater answers. We have to pay attention to who is lying to us and to know the reasons why. This is the time to openly consider what the consequences will be if we allow those that are malevolently lying to the masses to be given the power to guide us into the next destination. Thus, no matter our belief, we must go beyond in order to seek our truth and decide what kind of value system will have meaning for us and how we want to live and coexist with each other. Together, we have immense spiritual support to find the innovative and creative ways to reshape our global societal system and to support pro human values in which increase our energetic health and to ensure the well being of our future progeny. Do we want to do the right thing for preserving human freedoms and for the future? And if so, is that our personal piece in the global awakening puzzle? Can we stand up for the inherent human rights and for the rights of the human collective to have access to truthful information by demanding full disclosure, doing the right thing in the face of widespread tyrannical control? So, more people are exploring who and what they have been in consent with this fear based narratives. And as the cracks in the veneer start to show, many making radical changes in their perceptions of reality are starting to show to or rise to the top like cream. This phase of the mass global psyop has been revealed by many examples of these controlling forces enmeshed in the shadow government facades and unelected officials working with the deep state. Those perpetrating their own agenda are gleefully exploiting power grabs from the less advantaged and being positioned to grossly profit from severe abuses of power. Many people are still reeling in shock from how fast our entire world changed in a matter of weeks at the head of these psychopathic controlling forces that are desperate to seize control over the global population, especially within the Western power centers, at any cost. So this is our opening salvo. This is sort of giving us reverence to what we're going to be talking about when we talk about the Lyran histories. Remember what we say all the time, and this is why I hold true with these episodes. To not know where man or woman comes from is to walk on this earth lost. So what do? How do we fix that? We dive into these histories, both human and Lyran, because we know the genetic connection is there, right? And we know that we have to look at the Lyran histories to understand the full enormity of human history. So we're going to repurpose these over and over and over to get different takes and different angles on how the Lyran history intersects with human history. So let us keep going. I thought that was a pretty good opening salvo for the first time segment. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? I thought it was pretty powerful. It took a minute to really understand what was flowing through me when I said that. So now we're going to talk about stripping humanity of personal freedom. And this is where we start to get into deceptions and seeing how these negative entities are using our identity or what we perceive to be identities to strip away personal freedoms granted to us by the universe and our higher powers, right? So our true identity and history is under attack through how we express ourselves in the world of loving kindness, compassion, and empathy. Also, personal autonomy, which is now being intentionally weaponized against all of us. So, how the negative entities despise the divine birthright of a heart based expression of unconditional love, empathy, and intimate connections that exist between authentic spiritual human beings and entities that reside out there in the universe. The Western value system that was intended to uphold the constitutional liberties and human rights for all peoples is taking the last stand through those brave individuals who love personal freedom and recognize the many dangers behind the current draconian ordinances. They the carefully planned political policies to limit human freedoms are being synchronized and put into place now all over Western governments, which historically happens just before some sort of major attempt to wipe out power structures of individuality and human expression. So in this case, it's being orchestrated to generate consent to fall into the tyranny where the shadow government rises to enforce a one world order, right? We're teetering on that precipice. And the first step must have happened when basically most of us were not fully awakened from our slumber yet, which is some of us weren't even born yet. We're talking 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years ago, right? So what we have to do is we have to stop believing most of the deceptions of these invisible puppet masters and their mouthpiece representatives in order to see exactly who is who through their lies and the enforcement of totalitarian objectives to know why this cover up or these deceptions are truly happening. And this goes back to what we've been talking about with 2022 being the year of the truth seeker and 2023 being the year of accountability. Now, the year of accountability means that all the fruit that we bore while in seeking that truth, right? When seeking that truth, we came up with evidence based material research that will put these people behind bars for many, many, many years. So, our job now is to pass this information that we cultivated throughout 2022 to the masses in 2023, because then we enact a sensibility to initiate an accountability by those who would no longer or hold themselves above that accountability phase. They believe that they're untouchable, right? We have to remember that power lies in the people, just like Michael is saying. It's not a trickle down government, right? What we have to do is the bottom or the lake is greater than the waterfall, right? And we know that. So we have to direct our energies into applying this accountability, right? So what we're doing is we're trying to really come together and motivate those who are asleep to wake up. Because with that resounding wave that is happening now, we can sort of maneuver that wave to be the accountability. And that's truly what we're after. So let's get back to how this ties into Lyra, right? Which is the next one. And it's the Lyran Wars and humanity's genetic origins. This is where we start to get into the basis of why I said what I said in the beginning and why this is so important to understand. So, it may be hard to fathom that in this moment in the metaphysical realms, we are reliving the seed of the first wars of the Antichrist that began in Lyra, right? This takes us into our galactic history, where this war further spread into the Orion constellation when divine humans were seated upon the first homeworld, right? 5D Terra. There, there were those who were most who those there were those who that were so terrorized by the pure eternal light of the forces of love we carried in our crystal heart that in fear they tried to eliminate us from ever incarnating again into this universe. We are again at that same juncture in time where we have to make the decisions moving forward into the next cycle of evolution to learn and move beyond our past history. We must call upon our true humanity, the power of our eternal sacred crystal hearts, and put all of our best efforts upon the altar of serving humanity, God, and spirit. We stand at the precipice of a great transformation and positive change in the possibility of making choices that integrate great forces of spiritual healing, health, and harmony into our world in order to end the great galactical war cycle that began in Lyra. This is we're doing this so we can stop the continually repeating the same destructive events of human genocidal agendas and planetary cataclysms once and for all, right? So during these critical events happening on Earth now that have opened access into previous timelines, we're going to go back in time to observe humanity's original seeding and genetic ascendancy that is sourced directly from the cradle of Lyra and the Lyrans themselves. Through trans-time connection, if we can do our part to stay out of the fear and continually choose love and peace, we can create a link through time in which our present timeline can phase lock into the future timeline of the Christos realignment, where our spiritual freedom and human freedom have already manifested. Yet again, we're talking about this. These destructive events of human genocidal campaigns and holocausts, which have haunted our race for millions of years in the galactical history, will lose their power over our future density and will cease to manifest in this present time. So, to better understand this, let us go back and discuss the Lyran Wars and the ancient Great Galactical War, which set precedent for this cycle to keep happening, right? We're going to go to the next slide so I can just keep going through the information. So the Lyran Wars are the first seed of Antichrist conflict recorded in the Universal Time Matrix, in which these black hole entities, or entities from the void, intended to conquer the entire Milky Way galaxy. This resulted in the First Galactical War, intended as a rebellion over the Lyran's creation of the 12D Christos template human seedings that began on the planet Tara. This is the original timeline in the Solar Logos Avatar Matrix, where the first electronic wars and time rips were used as a genocidal campaign for committing the first Christos human holocaust, when the neighboring black hole entities attacked the royal houses and destroyed the Lyran gates in order to sever the Milky Way matrix from its mother universe in Andromeda. So the aftermath of the destruction caused by the Lyran Wars resulted in the Milky Way time matrix digressing into a fallen universe, in which these original Lyran coded fragments were used to form the Phantom Matrix and the Base 10 artificial tree of life that has essentially become the new home for the invading forces of the negative entities. After the destruction of the Lyran 12th gate and the Lyran Aramenta, right? The Emerald Order Lyran Elohim feline races were appointed to serve as the primary universal security team to repair the timeline architecture and to serve the primary, reclamation of the Christos mission and assist many of the fallen races in order to be able to continue the path of evolution to ascension. These fallen races have been partially and fully assimilated into AI programs, black hole technology that was historically used both as technological weapons to enslave other living matrices and to pull them into the phantom matrices that were those captured would be consumed and eaten. The point of AI infection of this black hole technology, ripping holes into the time matrix and infecting our system, began during the Lyran Wars, which was also intended to stop the seeding of the founder and Christos races, right? So this is a big point of interest. Thank you, Lean, for becoming a new member. I truly appreciate that. Thank you so much. So as we keep going here, this is essentially the beginning of the dark entities that are ruling class in today's society. They take direction from their overlords through different methods of technology and contact, just like the ones who are fighting against those people take their direction from contact of the side of the people who are benevolent, not malevolent, right? So we have to understand the greater picture. We have to, what we're doing is we're giving you a 40,000-foot view. And what happens now is when Omar goes into the protocols of Saturn, whether he agrees with this information or he doesn't, he's giving you the 40-foot view. We are a tandem, and we're doing this in a way that gives you the entire picture. He's showing you on a day to day level the corruption that these entities essentially infiltrated in the societal, political, and and corporations are infecting the planet and the energy grids in which they inhabit, or they've put up architecture or structure. Let us keep going. So, the first lineages of the main original Lyran Elohim feline humanoid races were also called the Anuhazi of the Emerald Order. The Anuhazi embodied as the liquid light biological forms of the original Christos races in this universe, existing in the solar logo fields of the Lyra Aramenta and the founder emanations that embodied the architecture of the cosmic sovereign law of one, which includes the ancient builder templates of God Creator Code. The Lyran Elohim felines were supervising the Syrians to host the seeding of the 12 strand DNA genetics on the 5D planet of Tara. And this is for the Christos race that was embodied. So after the fall of Tara, the Anuhazi downstepped themselves into the lower dimensions through the Azarites and the Oraphim to the 24 to 48 DNA strand template to create the interdimensional free world councils. And this was to protect and embody the universal Stargate locations to repair the AI damage and to reassemble protect the royal houses of Lyra's original genetic library, which was the source code design for the Christos forms. So we're going to go into the royal houses of Lyra. The trinity of Emerald Order, Gold Order, and Amethyst Order incarnations that were seated in the fourth harmonic universe and the Lyran matrix are known as the royal houses. So the Emerald Order of Elohim seeded the Anuhazi feline Elohim races through the Lyran 12th Stargate or the Aramenta, right? They are also known as the direct founders of the Christos race or the Ayani Asani Grail lines that included the Oraphim. So the second light manifestation of the Gold Order or the Gold Rays Order of Seraphim, the Saraz avian bird people, and the Atheon lines that are the solar Rishi, which incarnated into the fourth harmonic universe on the Lyra Vega through the 10th universal Stargate. The third light manifestation of the Amethyst Order are violet rays orders comprised of cessation, avian Pegasus people, and the aquatic Brahma seated in the fourth harmonic universe of the Lyra Avion through the Universal Stargate 11. Now, you can see that there's 10, 11, and 12. That also goes with density, right? Those universal stargates are basically matched with density. You would have to be 11th density to pass through them, 10th density to pass through them. These are the codes in which the universe is working, right? The quantum mechanics of the universe. So as we keep going, I'm going to keep skipping ahead in the slides because I want to keep making sure that we're ahead of the game here, right? We have to talk about the royal houses. So the royal houses collected advanced genetics from the meta-terrestrial founder races that were used to generate the original eternal light diamond sun body held in the Christos template. So during the fall of Lyra, these royal houses' genetical records were placed in the Emerald Order founder records and hidden in an out of time. They were hidden out of time and space in a pocket. So early on, they were recorded on a holographic plate and taken to be stored in Sirius B, which became the Hall of Records repository for holding the historical timelines and genetical records of the root races that were seated on Earth, Tara, and Gaia. So human beings' DNA records and genetic ascendary lineages hold the accurate historical timeline records for the entire universal system. Pretty much like we're the center of the universe. This means that the original human DNA template records hold the actual and true events in the history of all timelines that exist in the entire universal time matrix. So when a Christos architect can retrieve original divine human 12-strand DNA pieces that have fragmented from trauma or can read a human body that at the DNA level, the architect can read the energy signatures of the timelines from within the DNA record, which reflects the true and organic history of this planet and the solar system and the universal matrix. Each individually incarnated human being holds a specific and special DNA record of the timelines from their soul extension and the monadic family, which should lead them directly to the royal houses of Lyra, right? So the negative entities have intentionally fractured human souls with different methods to intend the override and to alter their histories with holographic inserts and AI technology attached through inflicting trauma and light body damage. That process is what inserts an inorganic AI record. This is a strategy used in the hybridization and genetic modification, which we talked about with Geraldine on Monday, right? And in which the human being has no awareness of their original genetic ascendary and Lyran history. However, right? However is always a big thing here. The Christos starseed architects can learn to sense the difference between organic records and inorganic records. And this is also directly a part of the timeline wars, as the negative entities do not want us to see what really happened in the timelines. And I'm going to bring this back to me for a second. This is discernment, right? This is where some of us who are awakened have a greater discernment than others who are asleep or even some within the community. Why? Because we're able to sense organic and inorganic timelines. Therefore, those great deceptions that are basically making the masses fumble over their own feet are no effect to us. And everybody can reach that level. Every individual human being has their own specific path into that hall of records. Now, it's up to each and every one of us to find our way there, right? So, this is what this is all about. This is why we do what we do. Let us keep going because in about 20 minutes, we're going to sign off so we give Omar enough time to get up and running and do his thing. But remember, Omar's after we are tonight. So make sure you stay tuned. Go to Watchers Talk and give it a watch. It's going to be absolutely incredible. So remember, they have stolen our memories and mind wiped us on Earth to make us forget who we really are. They want us to believe we have been abandoned on Earth or are the product of the Anunnaki, Yahweh, or other supposed false alien gods. As more humans awaken to activate their inner Christos template, some will be able to perform this function. This is also why those of us on this path can be harassed and attacked to prevent us from realizing that this is our purpose and mission, to help us recover original memoirs and help ascend and or transit humanity as a whole. So let us skip to the next. This is going to be the next topic, but this is truly fascinating stuff, guys. Truly fascinating. So, because the divine human genetic origins are sourced from the royal houses of Lyra, our original diamond sun genetic template and physical body is referred to as being royal, which means that in the angelic human DNA, the records exists that we are connected to the founders or gods of this system via our genetics. This has made humans the secret enemy of those entities or hidden entities within the negative entities as a covet, right? They covet us and desire our DNA and to use our physical bodies. But instead, the non human imposters stole our identity when they invaded and then promptly made themselves the gods and the rulers of this system. So the royal houses were constructed upon three white holes in the core of pre matter planetoids within the cradle of Lyra that reflected the solar logos or the body of the 12D Lyran sun from the combined unified threefold flames of the cosmic trinity. These were liquid light pre matter forms in a spherical domain which in its entirety held the architecture for the solar logos and the living matrices for the Christ mind, the Buddha mind, and the Avatar mind. When aspects of this cosmic trinity passed through the white hole, the unified consciousness was broken down into the lower dimensional vibrational frequencies, which makes up each dimensional spectrum. Each dimensional frequency band has originally experienced itself as fully unified with source and the whole. And this process created a different point of consciousness awareness located in another spectrum of frequency. So within the dimensional spectrums of frequency were the building blocks of creation, the positive polarity, the negative polarity, and the integration point back into the neutral, which generates the 0 point. When a consciousness chooses to learn and grow by being aware of existence of both polarities, they will organically evolve and grow towards integration, achieving inner energetic balance with the 0 point. This is the path of consciousness expansion and the personal growth which ultimately leads to the integrated spiritual ascension. Because this is the primary design of the time matrix in our personal DNA template, the path of polarity integration supersedes artificial intelligence signals and inorganic machinery and renders it ineffective against its living target. It is the lower polarities that exist in the negative ego structure that are attuned to the mind control of AI signals and when uncorrected, lead to the proliferation of reversal polarity currents, right? Additionally, the goal of creating multiple stations of identity was to experience evolutionary themes throughout time and space from the perspective of many points of consciousness located throughout the dimensional spectrum. And this would eventually return back to the integrate all aspects into the wholeness at the end of the time cycle. So the way back home is polarity integration, which returns us back into the 0 point and the wholeness, which happens much faster at the end of the ascension cycle, which we are on right now, right? I'm going to dramatically pause right there for a second because what I just said is essentially the broken down path to ascension. And by opening up to the complete polarity of all of it, which will experience the duality of positive and negative, can we truly integrate And when we integrate is when we truly ascend. And this is the integration of body, mind, and spirit, to put it lightly, right? So we have a goal. And with this information, when we give it to others, we're doing what we're meant to do. This is also why I want to do an entire class workshop on energy. And when we start to talk about energy, we're going to talk about integration of energy, but also interaction between energy. This is why it's so important. It's so important. We are energy, right? Energy, again, cannot be destroyed. It can only be transmuted to something else. Therefore, our soul or our consciousness, whichever you call it, is a form of unique energy. But while it's still unique, we are a part of a greater collective because of the experience that we have within that consciousness. So there is a great collective with individual strands within that greater collective. So really what we're doing is we're exploring that. And when we explore that and we start to integrate everybody else into that story, it's a cooperation, and that cooperation leads us to that 0 point and understanding. And that understanding becomes understanding. When we have that understanding, we start to ascend and really move past ourself and that polarity, duality, and all of it, right? So this is this is so vital to figuring out what the next steps are and what we need to do to help ourselves, but more importantly, those around us. To be of service to others is the ultimate goal, to be of service to others and live within the edicts of the law of one. We should all strive for that. Now, none of us are perfect. So it's not a path of completeness, right? It's a path of maybe stumbling and getting back up. It's a path of trying our best and knowing that we've tried our best to incorporate that law of one mentality and that service to others. But we have to understand that it's not always going to be that way. And that's where we start to get integration because we accept it. When we accept that we are not, well, none of us are perfect. We're all flawed. And then their paradigm of working off of those flaws no longer has credence over you and your consciousness. So it all fits. We can break everything down to these groups and look at it from a singularity standpoint or a collective standpoint. But I digress. So as we keep going, we talk about the most powerful universal gates within our system, which relate to the controlling the operational functions within our time matrix, are located in the cradle of Lyra. That's the 12D Aramenta, the 11D Evian, and the 10D Vega, along with the 8D Orion gates. The Lyran gates were destroyed during the Lyran Wars, which destroyed the architecture for the solar logos of the Christ body in this universal system. And then the black hole entities went to Orion in order to secure the 8D metagalactic core as a military base and an AI command control center for themselves. So that leads us to the Paliadorian Covenant and the Interdimensional Free World Councils. This is going to be the last section tonight. And then the next time we come together, we're going to talk about the next part of this, probably a 3 part. I've got probably about 12 pages of notes to go over still. So let us keep going. No, it's we've got to remember after this is Watchers Talk. At 10D should not be in Andromeda. It's in Vega. That's the truth of it. So let's keep going. As we keep going, the founder groups involved in this Christos blueprint seeding and ongoing DNA rehabilitation are called the Lyran Syrian High Councils, which are downstepped emanations of the original cosmic trinity of the Milky Way system. The Emerald Order lines are the founders of the interdimensional free world councils as the result of the Paliadorian covenant to ensure that all souls lost in the Phantom Matrix as the result of the fall of Lyra that led to the fall of Tara are eventually rediscovered or recovered and returned back to God's source or back to unity consciousness. So the Syrian High Council serves as the administrative body for the Interdimensional Free Worlds of Council Task Force to maintain freedom based evolutionary agreements and agendas between all star nations. These Crystal Star Guardian groups are from the God worlds and oppose deception, mind control, and slavery of all life forms, and thus protect spiritual freedom. Recently, the planet has received changes in appointing more guardian defenders and Christic facilitators from the founders of the International Free World Council at every dimensional level of access. So they're responsible for the recovery platform, which services the rehabilitation and education towards service to others and teaches basic ascension mechanics. So they're in the cosmic law being carried out in this system in several tribunal councils that answer to the Free World Council through the witnessing of actual events in the DNA records of those with the intention to complicate with or commit genocide of humanity. That's actually being organized now upon multiple planes of reality. And they're actually towards the ending of that organization. So we're starting to bear the fruit of what they're doing. The aftermath of the destruction caused by the Lyran wars resulted in extreme damage to timeline architecture during the phase that the consciousness families had already begun their descent into the lower densities that were gradually blending with the AI signals and corrupting the blueprints. And after the destruction of the Lyra 12th gate and Lyra Aramenti, the Emerald Order Elohim feline races were appointed to serve as the primary security team again and help repair and eradicate that AI infection. They also carry out the reclamation of those fallen races infected by this AI and basically the evolution towards rehabilitation and dissension. So, this is what we're talking about. This is what it's all about. We can keep going, but I think this is a good place to stop this evening. And I want to take questions from anybody who has them, but I also want to sound off on this a little bit more because the importance of what we do and holding ourselves accountable. This is something that I've been preaching for the last few weeks once we hit 2023. Because not only, like I said, is it accountability for those entities and those people in power that have done wrong or have basically contributed to the AI infection or the capitulation of inorganic timelines are to blame for the inherent enslavement of humankind. And when we start to awaken, and when we start to have others that are slowly coming around to this, and the reason why I say it's slowly come around is because we see this. Look, and I hate to point out politics. I really do, because politics is a crooked man's game, right? But what happened? They were trying to put in a Speaker of the House, right? And even though the one that they had appointed to be Speaker of the House fell in line with all of their specific, I guess, requests, there were some things that were pivotally important about time frames, allowances, and the ability to have every voice heard that wasn't up to snuff. So there were a few who were basically using their constitutional rights to uphold the process because they saw the corruption within the process. This is a very microcosmic scale of what's happening on a universal scale, right? The macro is the universe. There is these entities that are not giving humanity their due diligence or their due process to expand in consciousness and density. So there are a few of us holding up the works on the negative entity's agenda to point out what exactly is flawed and what we expect moving into the near future. But there's a caveat to this. If we are asking this of the entities that are on our side that are of higher power, not higher power, but of a higher power station than we have to live by the edicts of which we are preaching to those higher entities, which some of us do and some of us do not. Now, I'm not saying that anybody specifically here or not, but we have to abide by these and hold ourselves accountable, right? We have to hold ourselves accountable for what is happening day to day to make sure that we are part of the reclamation process. And n- just because we have certain encounters on this process, right? We give them to the universe for people to understand them. But at the same time, we're not always right. We're not. And we have to understand that we, even myself, can be wrong. And look at the whole. When you hear something that you don't agree with, you can't immediately go to the tactic of that's not okay, that's not good, that's not it, that's not that. We have to listen to it, take it in, ponder it, see the potentiality of it. And this is everything on a daily basis. To think that any one person knows better than the collective is asinine. It's crazy. One person's experience is through a perceptive filter. We have to understand that too. So what I read, what you read, what everybody else reads may be different, but we have to come to the understanding that because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. It's seen through their scope, right? So this is also what we're looking at politically too when we're looking at this. We have to make sure that there are certain people standing up for the law of one, and we will be those people, right? But the law of one says to understand that perspectives come in many different shapes, sizes, and forms. So if the information that one person says is non-congruent with what your information is, doesn't mean they're wrong. And that's why when we see things like, nah, that's not it. That's not true. That's all bullshit. That's all bullshit. That's the ego talking, right? And because one person saw it doesn't mean it's 100% true either. It works both ways. So we have to take that into consideration when it comes to information. When we start to resonate within the 0 point, the organic and the inorganic will become more available to us as we see it. And our discernment will sharpen. And that goes back to energetics, right? That's what it's all about. So, with that being said, I want to make sure that please share this out, smash that like button, subscribe if you have not. Also, please, 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 please. Oh, we're going to cover hermeneutics too. Yes, yes, very much so. We're going to go over in detail in some of the other aspects and how just what we say resonates at different levels, right? So please leave a comment. Let's defeat the algorithm. Let's get this information out. Let's do it together. Together we stand on the front line, on the precipice, even though I am not behind enemy lines anymore. And I'm going to tell you why I'm not behind enemy lines anymore. I'm not behind enemy lines anymore because I choose not to be, right? Yeah, it's amazing to feel the burdens of being behind those lines. And that's why we're not going to say that anymore. Because every day on this earth is a gift. Every day within this dimensional reality is a gift. And we have to embrace those gifts, right? And it's exactly right. Omar says it right here. Just know we are always wrong because everything we've been taught has been a lie. Correct. So what we have to do is we have to use perception to cultivate the information for ourselves. But we can't denounce anybody else's lie as opposed to our own, right? If everybody's doing that, then that's what it is. But don't forget, Watchers Talk, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard. He is going to drop it. I'm telling you, it's going to be a mic drop on the corporations. I'm telling you, we have to understand that Omar is one of the best researchers I've ever met. He is in my top 3, without a doubt, probably number 1. And I say top 3 like that because I'm not sure who's in what order. I just know he's one of the best and most thorough I've ever seen. The presentation you're about to get is going to blow your mind in so many different ways that even the 2 pictures that I saw were just so many questions pop into my mind. And we talked about it. But again, like, share, subscribe. Please share this out. 6:15 p.m. Sorry. So that's 9:15 and 6:15 Eastern Standard, Pacific Standard. Everywhere in between, you guys can do the math. So with all that being said, like, share, subscribe. If you feeling inclined, we have a donation button at the top of the chat. We are completely supported by the community. The more influx of revenue we get, the more we can tackle information wise and break down walls and barriers for everybody. So if you're feeling inclined, please, please, please donate, help support the broadcast. If not, just say some prayers for us. And doing really, really well with no headache today. It's been the first day in a long time. We're going to keep striving for greatness, right? We're going to keep striving to help everybody else. We're in this together. We have to understand that. It's all of us. It's all or nothing now. So with that being said, I love you all. I hope you find this with love and abundance. And we'll see you all next time on Full Spectrum Universe. Have a great night.